They say the world is a stage, but what if all the characters on that stage are Catholic? I mean, everybody's wearing the Catholic clothing, the vestments of the Catholic, and playing the role of the Catholic. You know, I'm going to go a little bit odd here, like I haven't already. In Shakespeare, there's so many answers in Shakespeare, it's not funny. And I struggle reading plays because I don't like the way they flow in my head, especially when they're written in 17th century English or whatever. But there's so much in the Shakespearean verbiage that people don't grasp. In Romeo and Juliet, and I'm only paraphrasing him, but he says when a rose by any other name is what? Still a rose.
A rose, yes.
A rose by any other name is still a rose. How many people know that the apple tree is in the same family as the rose bush? How many people would know that if I spoke of an apple, if Shakespeare spoke of an apple, he could still he's still also speaking of a rose. Now let's think of the rose line or Rosicrucian line or the bloodline, the rose line, the bloodline of Mary. Now think of the word apple. What was the fruit that Adam supposedly took a bite out of? In the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
An apple.
Yeah.
So he took a bite out of the bloodline of Mary and changed his form. He clothed himself. I mean, remember that in the garden they were naked, but out of the garden they were clothed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that changed. They ate from the tree of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And anybody that's followed any stuff that I've said over the years knows that knowledge is the word information legally. And information is the only evidence that they use, which information, by the way, is the legal title or the name or the paperwork that mother provided at the hospital. That's called information. So is your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is that the apple represents the bloodline of Mary as well, because a rose by any other name. Just because they call it an apple doesn't mean it's not a rose.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's the point, is that we don't open our eyes enough to see what's so right in front of us. We don't educate ourselves. We don't read anything anymore. And we don't sit and deduce or think clearly enough to put all this stuff together on a regular basis. It's a lot of stuff to swallow. But when it all makes perfect sense all the time, that Garden of Eden scene is Adam choosing a different bloodline. Now when you think of the word apple as a bloodline, and Adam takes and bites out of that bloodline, that apple, he's giving up all his male aspect. He's now going in the bloodline of that other. By the way, and when you think about this, when you think about me being born first and the afterbirth coming second, where did Eve come from?
Yes.
Adam's rib.
Oh, apparently so, yeah.
So Eve was even a part of Adam. Just like my half brother, my afterbirth brother is half, or is a part of me. It has half of my DNA.
Yeah.
So that Eve, that sister state, that Eve is a part of me. And if I take the bite of that apple, then I get clothed in that character. I get clothed in that other. Well, that clothing is the Catholic character. That's the clothing. That's the vestment. That's what takes you out of the garden.
So that's what they were clothed out of the garden.
They were clothed in a different character that took them. It took them out of the garden.